I'm attorney Phil Jusino, and this is a special edition of the Phil Jusino Show. I felt the need to come on tonight because there was a landmark decision in Colorado. The Colorado Supreme Court, which is their highest court. So, for instance, in New York, the Supreme Court of New York is not the highest court. It is the Court of Appeals. But in Colorado, it is the Colorado Supreme Court. They came down with a landmark decision that disqualifies Donald J. Trump from being on the ballot in Colorado in 2024. Now, before I get into my analysis, as a practical matter in Colorado in and of itself, it may not make a difference. This is what I mean by that. Biden won Colorado in 2020 about 54% to 45 or thereabouts. So it may not be likely that Trump would win Colorado, but it's an important case because it is going to be tested in the United States Supreme Court. Now, the decision was 4-3. So 4 justices in Colorado felt that Trump should be disqualified. 3 judges. So it wasn't unanimous. It wasn't, 7-2. Well, here it's 4-3. But it wasn't, a 6-1 or something like that decision, which is, in a sense, a mandate. So here, what I want to talk about is my analysis of what I think will happen and the reasons why I believe that. I honestly believe, and I'm not alone, that the United States Supreme Court will overturn that decision. Now, the Colorado Supreme Court gave until January 4th. So in other words, nothing will happen. He's not taken off any ballot. He's not prevented from being on a ballot. But come January 4, the Supreme Court has to decide whether or not they want to take that case. Now, if they don't, that could be the end of it, unless another federal appellate court, because don't forget that's the highest in the state. An appellate federal court could take it up, but the Supreme Court is going to make a decision, and I think it's not going to be a 5-4. It could be a 7-2 decision, overturning it, meaning Donald Trump would be eligible to be on the ballot if he is the Republican nominee. So it supposes a number of things. Will he be the candidate? Because if he were to, let's say, lose the primary, it wouldn't matter because somebody else will be there. But it's a test. It's a test case. Now, a couple of things going on. The part of the law that they're referring to is a Civil War era amendment, the 14th Amendment, Section 3. And I just want to read that briefly, if I can find it quickly, because I think it's important to know exactly what we're talking about. All right. So in this particular case, this is the law, Colorado. It's an amendment to the Constitution. It says, no person shall hold any office, civil or military, under the United States as an officer of the United States to support the Constitution, and I'm just going to skip to, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against same, the United States, or given aid and comfort, in a sense, to the enemy. All right, so there are 2 things at play here. One is, does it cover a president? It may not. If it doesn't cover a president, it's irrelevant, and the Supreme Court could say it doesn't cover the president. The other thing is a due process claim. Now, what's interesting in my research, the Chief Justice, so the head judge of the Colorado Supreme Court, he focused on the lack of any criminal conviction. Because let's be honest, Donald Trump has not been charged with insurrection or anything close to it. Now, the January 6th committee, which is made up of a bunch of Democrats and rhinos, recommended that charge. All right? But Jack Smith, who's the special counsel prosecuting Trump, has never brought that charge. So that's what this particular, who happens to have been appointed by a Democrat, and this is what he says. In the absence of an insurrection-related conviction, I would hold that a request to disqualify a candidate under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is not a proper cause of action under Colorado election law. I think there should be consequences against that court because that is election tampering, what they're doing. Therefore, he's saying, I would dismiss the claim at issue. Now, he's not alone. Right? Another Supreme Court justice on the same bench said the decision to bar President Trump, by all accounts, the current leading candidate on the Republican side, and also apparently in the polls overall from the primary ballot, flies in the face of a due process violation. Right? Due process means he has his right to his day in court. And to go beyond that, he was never charged with insurrection. So this is not a case where he's charged, he hasn't been convicted, and they're making a leap of faith that he did it. Now, they're also relying on hearsay from the January 6th committee. There was hearings held, and things were said, but there's no determination that there was any insurrection or he did anything against the United States. Those 91 indictments he has against him has nothing to do with insurrection. All right? Now, that his name is Seymour, Judge Seymour. And he said, even if we are convinced that a candidate committed horrible acts in the past, dare I say engaged in insurrection, there must be procedural due process, which hasn't happened here, before we can declare that individual disqualified from holding public office. So we have the Chief Justice of that court and another justice, don't forget there are three of them, I've just read from two of them, saying this is not proper, there are violations of the law. One is, does it even cover the president? The other one, if it does, his due process rights were violated. And that's what the Democrats do here. They've been violating Trump's rights for a long time. If you remember when they impeached him, Russian collusion, that turned out not to be the case. Remember the Pete video, that turned out to be a lie. So now they see that Trump, I predict, Trump will be the next president. Biden won't even be running. There's no way the Democrats are going to let him run. I don't know how they get rid of Harris, who's very incompetent. Right? She's the VP because she's a black woman. That's why she got the job. Biden won because there was some shenanigans, but you know what? I won't even go there. And to say that there were people that just didn't want Trump. But now we ask yourself this question. Is America, forget about yourself for a second, is America better off now than it was during the Trump years? That's going to be the test. So assuming there's a fair election, I predict Trump will win. So the Democrats feel what I'm feeling, and they're afraid. So they're saying, how do we get out of this? Oh, let's stop Trump from running. So that they're doing these test cases. It hasn't worked so far. No state has allowed it to get that far. Colorado, of course, we're probably high on pot, but Colorado now is the test case. And this could be the domino effect either against Trump or for Trump, because they might say Trump has immunity to many of these charges because he was president. If they say that, the Democrats are really in trouble. The other thing is, I don't see how these cases against him, the 91 indictments, get adjudicated within 11 months. The election is in November. We're almost in January. So a little more than 10 months, and it's the first Tuesday in November. I don't know the exact day. First Tuesday in November is the election. So how are those cases going to be adjudicated? I'm a criminal defense attorney. I know cases don't get done that quickly, especially this case. So the Democrats are out there saying, we can't beat Trump fair and square. So how are we going to do it? All right, let's start charging him with crimes. So you have these blue states like New York, Georgia, charging him with crimes. Then you have special counsel Jack Smith going after him to try to tie him up. Then they want to get a gag order. So follow me. Then they want to get a gag order so a guy running for the presidency of the United States can't talk about what's against him, which I believe is a violation of free speech, especially that this man is running for president. This is not some violent criminal or mafiosa. This man is running for the presidency of the United States. How can he not be able to speak about the charges against him? Because the prosecution sure can. Look at the Attorney General in New York. She ran on the platform of going after Trump. She's prosecuting Trump now. She ran on that platform. There was no gag order against her. She could say whatever she wants. I'm going to get him. That's what she said. Doesn't that sound like a conflict of interest? And she kept her word. I got to give her that. She kept her word. She's prosecuting him. They're going after him in New York. They're going after him in Georgia. They're going after him federally. But every time they strike at him, he gets stronger. Again, I'm not saying something that's coming out of left field. With every new charge, this has made him stronger. His poll numbers are going up and up and up. DeSantis, Haley, they're small potatoes. They're not going to catch him. I'm not saying I don't respect those two individuals. DeSantis, I think, was a damn fool for running when he did. He should have waited. There's no way he would have caught Trump. No way. Haley is going to eclipse DeSantis, but neither one of them is going to get picked for VP. It might be Kerry Lake or I think the governor of North Dakota, Kristi Noem. So I think that the Democrats' attempt to get rid of him is through legal maneuvers. I think we have some comments here. Don Barbado, Don, I have a solution. We should help the Democrats not be afraid. We have to hold their hand, ensure that everything is going to be okay. Kumbaya, right? Bobby Burke, they're taking the people's rights away from voting for Trump. And that's what's happening. Because if you live in Colorado and you want to vote for Trump, if this goes through, which I don't believe it will, you won't be able to do that. Ed Vilbig is watching from Atlanta. Okay. Come on, Ed. Get a lot of votes out there so that when he runs, he's running, but when he gets the nod in Georgia, he can get that purple state red again. Ed Vilbig, DeSantis, Haley need to drop out. The country needs to rally around Trump. I agree with that. If you look at the numbers, this is like a baseball game where the team in the lead is winning like 15-2. And in amateur sports, there's a thing called the mercy rule, where it's obvious.
All over Hampton-Bays High School where I worked. I mean,
Haley's doing a decent job. I got to give that to her.
And
but DeSantis, he should have waited. Youngkin, I believe, and I'm digressing a little bit, I believe Youngkin will be the standard bearer for the Republicans in 2028. I really, really do believe that. Let me just see any of the comments here. It says Trump will prevail. Everyone hates Harris. The problem I have with Harris, she's incompetent. I say that often, but it's true. She only got picked. And I give Biden credit for being honest about it. He knew he had to pick a black female. And that's why he picked her. And I always say, you wouldn't pick a baseball team the way we pick our politicians. Pathetic. Right? If the Yankee general manager picked this team where you had to have a Jew and a Greek and a black guy and a Christian, and you did it based on that team, pardon my French, would suck. Rather than saying, I want the best third baseman. I don't care if he's black, green, yellow, has a turban. I don't care. That's the best player that I can get, I can buy. Right? So I know I digress a little bit, but I'm going to try to keep it within about another minute or so. But again, Colorado, it's a test case. I think the Supreme Court will reverse that. And I think that's going to have a domino effect for President Trump. I really do. Just the fact that it was a 4-3, the Chief Justice of the Colorado Court said that should not have happened. And I believe the Supreme Court, because think about it, when you have all these impeachments and taking presidents or candidates off the ballot, what's going to happen the next time? So then if the Republicans are in power of a particular state, they can say, we don't want this Democrat on the ballot. It's a very, very dangerous thing. There should be an incredibly high bar. If Trump was convicted of insurrection, we still have to say, does that apply to the president? And if it did, he'd be out. I'd be the first one to say it. If the Supreme Court says it applies to a president and he's convicted of insurrection, he's out. No question. Okay? So I want to thank you for joining. I appreciate some of the comments you've made. And my next show is going to be Friday. I have a client coming on who was dragged through the criminal justice system. And we're going to talk a lot about that. And Barbara Williams, the old coach of the Islanders, not that she's old, but the coach of the Islanders, the skating coach, I should say. Skating coach, when they won their cups, she is going to be on the show, if not tomorrow, next Thursday. So tune in. Oh, and this Thursday, tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, channel 115, if you have Cablevision, it's going to be John Ray, and we're talking about the Gilgo Beach murders. You have a great night. Thank you.